We are all acquainted and impressed by the nest in the midbar of the Mon. That every day the Mon fell and provides sustenance to millions of people. In a trackless desert, perhaps even an equalness, though there's no quantitative way to measure miraculous events. But the miracle of water in the desert was certainly is an enormous one. Again, you have to have water here for millions of people, and you have to have it for their animals. So we're not talking about just finding one well of water, so to speak. And this was all before bottled water was popular. So nobody had any water bottles with them. So how did they survive the 40 years in the desert? So there was a miraculous be'er, a well of water, that the Torah and Chazal attributed to the zchut of Miriam, the sister of Moshe and Aaron. And she's really the heroine of the story, because there wouldn't have been a Moshe without her. She's the one that saved him from the waters of the Nile. So in her zchut there was this never-ending flow of water that traveled with them. It wasn't dependent on any groundwater that lay underneath or any system of pipes. So that's an enormous miracle. A miracle that's astounding. And in this week's parsha we read that the miracle stopped. Miriam passed away. So then that zchut no longer was present. And they were left with having to have water from other sources. And that was part of the problem that led to Moshe and Aaron to striking the rock because they had to get water. It became difficult. And it's mind-boggling even to think how millions of people could survive any amount of time in the desert without, so to speak, a miraculous source of water. So in this week's parsha we read a poem, a song that the Jewish people sang regarding the well of water. Oz Yosher Yisrael. Then did the Jewish people sing Ali Be'er Enullah regarding this great well of water that would sustain them in the desert. That was a miracle. They sang the praises. So the Meforshim comment, why did they sing before about the Be'er? And we find that when the Mon stopped, they didn't sing at all. Because apparently they felt that they would have the ability to sustain themselves. They were now in Eretz Yisrael, they would have the crops, they had animals, they would survive. So there's no song for the Mon. Even though the Mon is the most miraculous of entities, the Torah said to keep it sincenis Amon as a remembrance to the Mon. According to the Torah, it was next to the Aron Kodesh, in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan. But there's no song for the Mon. But there's a song for the Be'er. or the well of water. So there are a number of insights here that have to last 10 minutes. One of the insights, Chazal say, Gedolim, Tzadikim, B'misosom, Yosem, B'chayim. So we usually interpret that the power of the tzaddik, even when the tzaddik, he or she has departed the world, still exudes power, and in fact exudes perhaps a greater influence than even when the person was alive. But there's a nuance here that the Torah also wants us to understand. That the nature of people is that we do not appreciate what we have. That's our nature. Nobody makes a bracha every day, on health, or that I have what to eat, or I have a roof over my head, or that there's a Jewish state, or whatever. Nobody makes it. It's only when, God forbid, it's not there, then we recall it. Then it made an impression on us. When it's missing, then we realize what we had. So that's part of the idea of Gedolim, Tzadikim, B'misosom, Yosem, B'chayim. When they're alive, they're tzaddik, they're not tzaddik, and B'nai Barak's full of them. So, big deal. But when the tzaddik isn't there anymore, Vayetze Yaakov v'Beersheba, upon the Hodra, upon the Ziva, upon the Hoda. Oh, then we realize, look what we have. So Miriam, in her lifetime, the well is taken for granted. Sure, we're going to have water every day. We got Miriam. And because of Miriam, God has always provided us with water. And then when Miriam is not there anymore, and the well doesn't function in the same way anymore, so then we remember. Then Ve'ali Be'er Enulo. Then we sing a song to it. So we always sing a song to what we took for granted and is no longer there. The Tehillim, it says that the non-Jews in Bavel said to the Leviim, Shiru lanu mishirei tziyah. Sing for us the songs. You heard the Beis HaMikdash was a concert every day. 365 days a year, the Leviim sang. There were musical instruments, Shabbos, Yom Kippur, and Yom Sheni Bashabbos Shabo Hoyu Alavim Homi Beis HaMikdash sang the song, right? So as long as they had the Beis HaMikdash, they took it for granted. Now when they came into the exile, the Beis HaMikdash is not there anymore. So then the non-Jews asked them to sing the song. And they were unable to do so anymore. But at that moment they realized what the song was. And that was the moment that taught them that the Levium and the singing and the Beis HaMikdash meant something. Because it wasn't there anymore. It was the absence of its presence that made the impression. And they were so distraught that the Talmud tells us they bit off the tips of their fingers. How can we sing we're in Golos? Now, the Jewish people became accustomed to Golos. We sing plenty in the Golos. But the idea was that you couldn't take it for granted. And we also find that the bear is very important in Jewish life. Chazal pointed out to us in very many midrashim. Look at all the things that happened by the bear. Rivka is by the bear. Yaakov Avinu is by the bear. Moshe is by the bear. In the Torah, there are no coincidences. There are no things that happen at random. It just happened to be by the well. Because the bear represents something. It represents life. Because without the bear, a person go longer without food than he can without water. We know we're told every day here in Israel, drink, you get dehydrated. You don't say eat, you get hungry. It's all right, you get hungry. You can all afford a little. But water is literally the elixir of life. It's what gives us life. So the Jewish people were created on the bear. And so how do we describe the bear? So bear, chafaru sorim, karu nediveon. The bear was dug by great people. So Chazal says that be'ero shel Torah. The well is the Torah. The Torah sustains us. And it was dug by great people. Karu nediveon. People who volunteered, who sacrificed, who gave their lives for it. Look at the long, long story of the Jewish people from Sinai till today. So the whole survival is built upon people that somehow were willing to give everything in order that there should be Torah amongst the Jewish people. That it should survive. We see, Rahman al-Islam, there are many stories about the synagogues that were burned, some purposely, some by accident, etc. But the story is that people ran in to save the Sifrei Torah. Why? Al pi halacha, that's a sofek pikuach nefesh. The Sifrei Torah is a piece of parchment. Human life is more than a piece of parchment. But people were willing to risk their lives to save the Sefer Torah. Because the Sefer Torah is the bear. It's the well of water that sustains us. And therefore that's why there's this song. The song ends as Voiv Basufa. So Chazal say as Voiv Basufa, again with a play on words, is that people sometimes disagree. Great people sometimes disagree. And they disagree on important matters. But the power of Torah is that at the end, Nasu Ohavim Zelazeh. The Sof is Voiv. The Sof is that somehow we can coincide and reconcile, see both sides of the matter, because Torah itself always sees both sides of the matter. We study the Talmud, the Talmud is one big machlekes to the end. But it's because of the Talmud that we're here. The ability to be able to balance the opinions, to be zoche, that it would be at the end as Voiv Basufa, that Achsheliu Ohavim Zelazeh. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer, Ratz HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Yisrael, V'Tachir Bo El Torah Mitzvos Shenemar, Adonai Chafetz U'Man Tzidko Yavil Kol Yavil.